which turns out to be a senator with more money than sense named Didius Julianus. So Didius Julianus successfully buys himself the Roman Empire in April of 193. Immediately, the best generals in the three parts of the empire decide that this is not okay, because the empire is supposed to at least be roughly associated with merit and not wealth. So three of them, Claudius Albinus, who is the commander of the legions in Britain, the awesomely named Pescennius Niger, who is the commander of forces in Syria, also really rich for when it counts, and Septimus Severus, also really awesomely named. I have no idea what the connection between Severus and Severe is, but he is kind of a hard ass, so there may be something to that. Who is the commander of the legions in Dalmatia, immediately declared that Didius Julianus is a usurper and that they are going to seize Rome to restore his rightful authority. Now, as you can probably understand from the basic working of geography, Septimus Severus has a certain advantage when it comes to invading Italy, namely that he's already there. So, his legions successfully take the city in 193. Didius Julianus actually puts the Praetorian prefect Latus to death before Severus takes the city, apparently in a futile hope that this will make Severus like him. It doesn't, so bye. He's gone. So Septimus Severus then has a problem, or more specifically two problems, which are Pescennius Niger and Claudius Albinus. So they could all sit down and try and work things out over a cup of beer. But we saw how that worked out with Pertinax, and Septimus Severus doesn't like taking chances. So he goes to deal with them in turn first. He garrisons some troops in the Alps to hold off Claudius Albinus, and then he goes and defeats Pescennius Niger in a series of battles, which eventually results in Pescennius Niger and his super cool name being shuffled off this mortal coil. Claudius Albinus has spent this time basically taking control of the western part of the empire and solidifying his command here, but he doesn't want to storm the Alps because the Alps are hard, and unless you're Hannibal, you're not really cool enough to do it. So he sits around until Septimus Severus goes and attacks his forces at the Battle of, I have no idea how to pronounce this, Lugdunum. Great names in history, just the Year of the Five Emperors. This is called the Year of the Five Emperors, by the way, because there are 5 emperors in a year. So Claudius Albinus, Septimus Severus in the ring, Battle of Lugdunum. This is the largest battle ever fought between Roman forces. It totals probably 100,000 to 150,000 men combined, which would be equivalent to maybe half the soldiers in the entire empire. The astute among you will remember that Rome is a country surrounded by people that want its stuff, so having half of your soldiers fighting another half of your soldiers is not really a shrewd strategy for keeping the empire intact. And here we see the problem that will arise so often throughout the 3rd century, namely that generals on the frontier will repeatedly go and try and take Rome to make themselves emperor, meaning that there are no longer soldiers on the frontier, meaning that you can walk in. So that doesn't happen right now because Marcus Aurelius did a pretty good job of thrashing the Germans' ass during his reign. But we see it coming, so damn, I hate Chuck.
Wait, who won the Battle of
Lugdunum, oh, I'm sorry, Septimus Severus.
Okay.
So Septimus Severus is now undisputed Roman emperor. The Battle of Lugdunum is not until 197, though, so this little civil war has taken everyone 4 happy years. So Septimus Severus is now emperor. There are a couple of things about Septimus Severus. Most importantly, he is not from Europe. He was born in Lepsus Magna, which is in Libya, right here. So he is a foreigner. His wife is a foreigner. She's of Arab descent. And he is also a military man. He spent his entire life killing people for Rome. So he has very, very little patience for the democratic niceties of the Senate in Rome. So when the Senate in Rome says things like, you should listen to us, Septimus Severus says no. And among other things, he decides to triple the Senate in size. He stacks it with people from the provinces rather than people from Italy or Rome, and he ignores pretty much everything it tells him. So, yes, he makes it from 300 to 900 men, which is sort of like if the president decided to double Congress and make most Congress people from the Midwest. So, Septimus Severus also, among other things, sacks the Parthian capital, which I also cannot pronounce, but which is written Ctesiphon over here. Destroys it, smashes it to the ground. The Persians right now, this is in Persia, you're wrong. The Persians are ruled by the Arsacid dynasty, which is not Persian, it is from the Caucasus, I believe. And the Arsacid dynasty is not very centralized. They're kind of like feudal Europe, where the idea is that there's the big king and then the minor kings, and the minor kings are all supposed to listen to the big king. This doesn't happen that often. So they're kind of on their last legs anyway, and Septimus Severus destroying Ctesiphon is going to be like the last straw for them. So this is important just because the Sassanids are also soon going to collapse and be replaced, or I'm sorry, the Parthians, the Arsacid dynasty is soon going to collapse and be replaced by the Sassanid dynasty, which is the new rulers of Persia. And we're going to be seeing a lot of these guys. So, the other thing that Severus does during his reign, oh, I almost forgot. So he takes the Roman treasury and he converts it into something called the res privata, which means literally private thing. And it's private because it belongs to him and his family and is inheritable through them. So that's kind of a problem for the treasury. But it works out really well for the Severans. He spends the rest of his reign fighting some barbarians in Britain, the Picts, and he dies there in AD 211. So goodbye, Septimus Severus. His last words are awesome. So his two sons are coming close to him, and he's dying in military uniform as usual. They ask him, "Do you have any advice for us?" And he says, "Enrich the soldiers and despise the rest." So keep the troops happy, and everything will go well for you. So that's kind of the tone for the whole Severan dynasty. After Severus dies, he's replaced by his two sons, Caracalla and Geta. They don't get along. They sufficiently don't get along that they live in separate palaces on opposite ends of the city. And after about 7 months of trying to work with each other, Caracalla decides to resolve the dispute by storming Geta's palace and stabbing him in the arms of their mother. Or rather, ordering other people to stab him. He then defaces Geta's face on all portraits of the Severan family made when Severus was alive. So they're all like, there's portraits of the Severan dynasty, and like they're all standing together and like smiling and stuff. And there's Septimus Severus, there's his wife, there's Caracalla, and there's a smudge where Geta's face is based on. So it's just Caracalla. Caracalla's name means hooded cloak. Is a reference to he was really big into this Gallic style like cloak, and people in Rome thought this was weird, so they named him after the cloak. His actual name was like Marcus Aurelius Antoninus or something. So Caracalla is another military man. He also spends most of his reign fighting people, once again, mostly the Persians, who are always an acceptable punching bag. He also does one other really big thing in 212. He passes something, he issues an edict, rather, called the Constitutio Antoniniana, Constitutio Antoniniana, which grants citizenship to everyone. So citizenship goes from just being people in Italy, to which it was granted at the end of the 1st century BC, and selected rich people throughout the empire, to being everyone. This is an issue because it eliminates the auxiliaries, the legions. The auxiliaries are non-citizen forces that they're granted citizenship after a certain period of serving in the military. Those are gotten rid of, so an incentive for joining legions is removed because you no longer need to do it to get citizenship. And it also means that the legions, rather than being drawn from a very specific area, Italy, where everyone knows that they're on the same side as the emperor because they're all Italian and they come from the same place. And if this ship goes down, Italy goes down with it. Suddenly you have legions from all over the empire, people from Gaul, Spain, North Africa, the east over here. It continues the whole getting things away from Rome itself thing that Severus started when he expanded the size of the Senate. The reason he did this, Caracalla did this rather, is because he wanted to increase the tax base. I don't think that you could only tax citizens, but maybe you tax them at a higher rate or something. At any rate, in 217, Caracalla starts a very popular trend